up, Japan City volunteers visit the tornado-hit Saitama Prefecture for a disaster survey. We meet a loving father and husband, Mr. Chen, who is committed to look after his bedridden wife and son. Welcome to our headlines. I'm Wendy Chen. Thank you for joining us. First up in Japan, a tornado hit the prefectures of Saitama and Chiba this Monday, September 2nd, injuring some 60 residents and leaving over 30,000 households without electricity. To help, city volunteers from Tokyo visited the worst-hit areas and carried out a disaster survey.
After a tornado left a trail of destruction here at Japan's Saitama Prefecture, traffic are blocked as the roads are packed with damaged furniture.
The houses on the left are all gone. Drive quicker. The glasses are all broken on the side of the bridge.
Tokyo Tzu Chi volunteers arrived immediately to carry out a disaster survey. Seeing how the windows at Sakurai Minami Elementary School are all broken, volunteers quickly picked them up.
By picking up one more piece of glass means one less chance of students getting hurt.
Broken glasses are really sharp and we are worried that children might get hurt, so we must pick them up to prevent that from happening.
The day the tornado hit also happened to be the school opening day. Thus, 4 of the students were also injured from the disaster.
There were strong winds and the rain suddenly poured down. The glasses were shattered and not long after, the tornado came. I screamed for the students to run outside.
Though some houses were damaged by the tornado, local government has begun reconstruction work and provided temporary shelter to those in need.
My house was not severely damaged, but my mom is 91 years of age. With no electricity and aircon, she gets a little anxious, so that's why we are here.
A visit to the disaster area gives Tzu Chi volunteers ideas of how to carry out further relief work to help residents on the path to recovery.
In Taiwan, to provide quality medical services to residents living on the East Coast, on September 3rd, Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital officially expanded its Chinese medicine department. With this new expansion, medical staff all promise to continue safeguarding the health of local residents.
1、2、3。
Today, the Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital's Chinese Medicine Department officially opens to the public.
With the establishment of the Chinese Medicine Department, we hope to offer more services and professionalize traditional Chinese medicine.
Every month, more than 6,100 people visit the hospital to receive Chinese medicine treatments. To safeguard the health of local residents, the Chinese Medicine Department was established. The hospital also sets up 3 new treatment rooms and 1 consulting room.
Other than the treatment rooms on the first floor, we have already set up temporary treatment rooms on the 5th floor. This will temporarily solve our room shortage problem.
Tending to patients' need with extra attentiveness. Over the years, Tzu Chi hospitals have shouldered the responsibilities to safeguard the health of residents living on the east coast of Taiwan.
Thankfully, we have a Tzu Chi hospital here in Hualien looking after our health. The medical staff here are great. Thank you.
Currently, Tzu Chi hospitals are the only hospitals on the East Coast that offer Chinese medicine. Other than taking care of locals, the hospitals are also excellent places for students from Tzu Chi University's Chinese Medicine Department to exercise their knowledge and skills.
After the water supply system was damaged by an earthquake and tsunami in American Samoa in 2009, local residents have been drinking imported bottled water and thus creating millions of plastic bottles in waste each year. The manager of a local recycling center, Ralph, met Tzu Chi 2 years ago and has since followed Tzu Chi's footsteps in protecting the environment. Recently, Tzu Chi donated a plastic bottle shredder to Ralph to help him continue his good work. Let's take a look.
Inside this recycling center in American Samoa, staff members are operating a plastic bottle shredder.
A couple months ago, we received this machine from Tzu Chi company in Taiwan, and it's the chipper that we have in the background here. We also have a baler machine that will also help speed up the process with aside from just chipping it. So we have two good machines here on our island now to help with the recycling program. And hopefully, we'll all work together and things will run smoothly as we move towards the future.
Inspired by Tzu Chi's concept of coexisting with the planet, Ralph decided to contribute his share to safeguarding the island's beautiful rainforest. Upon learning that these plastic shreds can be turned into blankets that can help those in greater need, Ralph expressed his amazement. American Samoa has a population of around 60,000. In 2009, the island territory was devastated by the tsunami, which damaged the local water supply system. Since then, local residents have been relying on imported bottled water, with plastic bottles being discarded carelessly. However, the nearby ocean has been put in serious jeopardy.
And there was a time this place used to be very clean, but somewhere in there they just got lazy. Our way of learning is by showing, by coaching.
Worried about the natural habitat on the island, local sports association President Eden and local residents have been picking up garbage around their neighborhood on a weekly basis.
So they would say, oh, we do a pick-a-thon, which is pick trash, and they would put them in trash bags. So you would see groups sometimes that would pick along the roadway or around here, and all they would do is just putting the trash, but nobody was recycling. So we're trying to change that and say, listen, we can do the trash, but let's recycle while we're doing it.
Meanwhile, to spread Tzu Chi far and wide, Tzu Chi volunteer Zhen Cihui has been visiting American Samoa to promote Jingzi aphorisms and recycling. Thanks to her efforts, local residents have started to become more aware of the importance of protecting their environment.
In our continuing report on the endangerment of Taiwan's offshore islands, today we take a look at the sewage problem in Penghu's Magong City, which does not have its own water treatment facilities. With an estimated 10,000 tons of wastewater discharged into the ocean each day, the county government therefore has built 2 experimental sewage treatment plants here, marking a positive step in reducing further destruction to the surrounding ocean.
如果说有一天澎湖的母亲海洋真的被污染到不见了，那我们从小到大生活的这块土地，以后还要到哪边去找？
It is his love for the ocean that led Fu Jingfan to a profession in environmental conservation. Taking us for a walk by the seaside, what we discover is wastewater being discharged from a ditch and released directly into the ocean.
全马公市呢有15条排水。
There are 15 sewage ditches in Magong City, and this is a residential sewer. Wastewater is released directly into the ocean, even before it has been treated. Judging by the outflow, the amount of wastewater coming from residential sewers is quite significant.
Apart from its 70,000 residents, Penghu also receives close to 1 million tourists each year. Yet wastewater continues to be discharged into the ocean that protects and nurtures life and the people of this island.
And the wastewater released into the ocean contains a high concentration of nitrate, which will result in the eutrophication of our seawaters.
Eutrophication is the increased levels of nitrates and phosphates in an aquatic system, which encourages the growth of algae in a water body, which threatens the survival of aquatic life and damage coral reefs.
在澎湖啊，我们是没有黑色的沙子。
We don't have black sand here in Penghu, but the corals here are covered in black sediment, so it's obvious that this area is heavily polluted.
The long-term accumulation of sewage and pollution seems to have tainted the clarity of these waters, but arriving in Magong City's Xiwei borough, we see an opportunity for change. Here, we discover an abundance of wetlands.
这里你看，这是有一只蟹嘛？有没有看到？
What separates Magong and Xiwei is this sewage treatment facility, which treats some 800 tons of wastewater for 5,000 residents. Here on the right is where the water is being treated. On the left is water after it has been treated. If we compare the two, the difference is obvious.
没有经过处理的水质，大家都可以看得
This
出来。
bottle of water is untreated, and you can see the water quality. Now that it has been treated, this is what it looks like.
In the past, one could only rely on rainy days for rainwater to dilute the wastewater. Now, there are 2 experimental water treatment facilities in Xiwei and Sanshui, which can reduce 80 to 90% of contaminants in water. Yet Magong City discharges approximately 10,000 tons of wastewater into the oceans each day, and plans to improve the water treatment system have stalled.
The initial plan is completion of all piping within 18 years. Because Magong City is more densely populated, similarly, the amount of pollution caused is greater.
Although we see the development of infrastructure, the implementation of a proper drainage system is making little progress. If the discharge of residential waste continues to pour into the ocean, then one of the world's most beautiful bays might just become a memory.
In Taiwan's Danghua County, we meet Tzu Chi care recipient Mr. Chen, whose wife has suffered from mitochondrial defects for over a decade. At first, Chen's son would help take care of his mom. However, he was also diagnosed with the same genetic disorder when he was in junior high school and eventually became bedridden after his second year in university. Though heartbroken, Mr. Chen took on the responsibility of taking care of his wife and son without complaint and says it is a sweet burden he will continue to shoulder for the rest of his life. This is the scene of Chen Jian-yi gently wiping his mother's face and body before the same illness struck him. Chen had lost his ability to speak due to the illness, but still stood by his mother's side all day.
He was diagnosed with mitochondrial defects. It is a genetic disorder. My son has helped take care of his mom since he was little. He is a hardworking child and helped his mom deal with her pain. Whenever he was free, he volunteered and helped others. If his classmates had questions, he would happily answer them.
Though Chen Jian-yi was diagnosed with mitochondrial disease when he was in junior high school, he still worked his way up to second year of university.
After spending a month at an intensive care unit, he came back bedridden. When he has a lot of sputum, he will make sounds like this.
As his son can no longer eat anything, Mr. Chen feeds him milk through a tube that connects to his stomach.
When he could no longer swallow, I was no longer able to give him any solid food. He won't be able to eat it.
After ensuring his son is asleep, Mr. Chen then takes care of his wife.
She remains unconscious. She will smile a little and then fall back to sleep.
The pages of writing are all the records made by Mr. Chen of his wife and son's condition.
These are records from 2005 up to now. I write her condition down each day and make a record of when she took her medicine and milk. Jian-yi, Tzu Chi aunties are here to visit you. These volunteers ask for nothing in return, and they helped us a lot, so I thought, when I'm capable, I will reciprocate. My wife and son both drink milk, so I have a lot of empty bottles, which I donate to Tzu Chi. I'm just giving what I can.
He wants to give to help others in need, so he donates a little each month.
I watch Master Zheng Yan's teachings. Whenever we come across difficulties, I know how to face them. We just give it our best in everything.
A loving husband and father, Mr. Chen's commitment to his family moves all those around him. In the Chinese community in Malaysia, animal offerings and joss paper are considered an essential part of the Pudu festival during the 7th lunar month. For this reason, since 2008, the Tzu Chi Malaysia chapter began advocating the concept of the auspicious month through providing free vegetarian banquet and short skits that explain the 7th lunar month as a month of gratitude and filial piety. Here's more.
For Lin Qinghui, extravagant ceremonies during the 7th lunar month were part of his former superstitious beliefs.
Before, during the 7th lunar month, I normally spend at least $300 to buy offerings. A pig offering cost me some $150. Other than this, I also prepared wine, fruits, chickens, and ducks. In the end, they were all given to my neighbors because we couldn't eat them all.
Like Lin, Chen Huiqing used to be superstitious as well.
Before, I was so obsessed with fortune-telling that I would seek their help wherever they were.
Like in Taiwan, the Chinese community in Malaysia honors the Pudu ceremony in extravagant ways. Therefore, since 2008, Malaysia Tzu Chi volunteers have been holding an annual campaign to promote the idea of an auspicious month, as they provided free vegetarian meals and put on show skits to correct superstitious ideas. Now, as a Tzu Chi volunteer, Lin Qinghui and Chen Huiqing no longer find themselves lost in their former superstitious beliefs.
No more offerings, because a single good deed can counteract 1,000 disasters.
Now I am too busy doing Tzu Chi to deal with the Pudu ceremony. I believe what Master Chen Yan says. Instead of seeking blessings, one should create one's own.
Following Tzu Chi's example is also Grandma Chen Mei-yin, who has given up her past habit of burning joss paper.
Master Chen Yan asks us to stop burning joss paper because the earth is having a fever. We have to do our part to save this planet. I couldn't agree with the master more, so I saved the money that would be used for joss paper for the less fortunate.
Thanks to these dedicated volunteers, now more and more people are learning to see and observe the 7th lunar month in the correct manner.
In 2008, Mitushi, a little girl from Sri Lanka, arrived in Malacca, Malaysia with the help of Tzu Chi to receive medical treatment for her scoliosis. As Mitushi grew up, the metal rod that was inserted to straighten her back became dislocated, and thus recently, with Tzu Chi volunteers' help once again, Mitushi has arrived in Malaysia for another surgery. Skinny and frail Mitushi, though in pain, quietly sits as she lets medical staff take care of the metal rod that is sticking out of her back. Mitushi from Sri Lanka was diagnosed with scoliosis when she was just 9, and through the help of Tzu Chi volunteers, the little girl received treatment in Malaysia. This time she arrives in Malacca once again, as the metal rod that was supposed to support her spine has become dislocated.
There's a wound there, and the rod is, the metal is coming to the skin a bit. We cannot do at the same time. So we remove first and then let the wound heal. Actually, I plan to do at the end of the year. It's not a big problem, tell them.
Over the past 5 years, Tzu Chi volunteers in both Malaysia and Sri Lanka have worked together to provide assistance to Mitushi and her family.
She has to come back to the hospital every day for her problems, so her community volunteers take turns to accompany her. That is the most important.
Rest assured, Mitushi will never be alone on her path to recovery with Tzu Chi by her side. Back in Taiwan, some Girl Scouts from Malaysia and another group of overseas students attending the International Youth Culture and Study Tour in Taiwan visited Tzu Chi's recycling stations respectively in Guandu and Nehu. Tzu Chi volunteers hoped through these visits that the youth will take what they have learned back home and spread the environmental message forward.
The first, you stand here.
Here at Tzu Chi's Nehu recycling station, Tzu Chi volunteers escort a group of youths as they teach them the process of sorting recyclables.
Nothing was here.
Learning that these ordinary items are actually made from plastic bottles, the youngsters are all amazed.
I'm very much impressed with what you can do with plastic bottles in terms of the blankets, the insulation, and even the construction into construction. I think that is incredibly important for our environment, where we've seen a degradation of the environment over time.
In addition to Tzu Chi's signature eco-friendly blankets, these youngsters are also amazed upon seeing countless seniors devoting themselves to sorting recyclables.
Especially elderly people with this work, and they are doing everything by hand, so they can relate with, they know about the garbage they are producing, and they know that perhaps they should produce less garbage.
Meanwhile, at the recycling station at Tzu Chi's Guandu grounds, Girl Scouts from Malaysia are here to learn more about Tzu Chi's brand of recycling.
I'm not a Tzu Chi volunteer, however, I watch Diet TV back in Malaysia. I support the charity mission started by Master Chen. During our trip to Japan, we met the scouts from Taiwan and learned about Tzu Chi's work. That's why we arranged today's trip.
Piles of recyclables remind these youngsters of the price that humans have to pay.
Because like us, we recycling volunteers, we're doing recycling every day, right? But they want to collect everybody, more people, just 1 day a week.
As Tzu Chi volunteers explain how recycling works to these students, they are also planting seeds of goodness across the world.
As a new semester has begun in schools and universities around Taiwan, in Taipei, Tzu Chi volunteers were invited to Bailing High School in Siling District to share with students their environmental ideals. Meanwhile, their counterparts in Hsinchu also arrived at the National Hsinchu University of Education to prepare 700 meatless lunchboxes for teachers and students.
With support from the school's president, Hsinchu Tzu Chi volunteers arrived early in the morning at the National Hsinchu University of Education to prepare 700 vegetarian lunchboxes for students.
We support the idea of local farming, organic food, and reducing our carbon footprint, and the vegetarian food offers our students a healthy diet.
If the president has the courage to promote such a large-scale vegetarian campaign at his school, we must help him accomplish this goal.
Students are all amazed at how delicious meatless dishes can be after trying out the soup and noodles made by the volunteers.
This is a wonderful event. It gives us the opportunity to contribute to the planet by giving a little of our love.
The vegetarian campaign also breaks the perception of how meatless meals can never fill our stomachs and are not as healthy.
The traditional view is that vegetarian food is not healthy because we are not getting any meat in our diet, but in fact we gain enough nutrients from meatless dishes.
Meanwhile, Bailing High School in Taipei's Shiling District also invited Tzu Chi volunteers to give a talk on environmentalism at their semester orientation.
We should first take out the unwanted garbage and categorize them into recyclables and non-recyclables.
Tzu Chi volunteers share ways to make enzymes with teachers and students, as well as how to reduce, reuse, and recycle.
We go to the United States at the end of the show. With disasters becoming ever more frequent, Tzu Chi volunteers in California visited local businesses in Fresno, Los Angeles, and Santa Clara to promote vegetarianism, recycling, as well as Tzu Chi's bamboo coin banks. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.